So this lesson is on operations with polynomials, and to operate, it's basically like the verb of math. Operate just means like to do something. The most common we see are adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing. So we're just going to do this with polynomials today. As a quick review, a term is something like 2x or 2 or xy, and they're often separated by plus or minus signs. And if you have like terms, that means terms that are alike. That means they have to have the exact same variables with the exact same exponents on those variables. For example, 2x and 3x are like terms because they have the exact same variable, x and x, and the exact same exponent, 1 and 1. If this one were an x squared and that one were just an x, they would not be like terms. Or if this one was an x squared, now they are like terms. If this one had a y in it and this one didn't, now they're not like terms. But if this one had a y, now they are like terms because x squared y, x squared y. They have to be the exact same variables with the exact same exponents on those variables. So, you've probably heard the phrase combine like terms, which means that when you have like terms, you can combine them. I like to think of these as like apples and bananas. For example, if I have 5 apples and 5 bananas, and over here I have 3 apples and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 bananas. How many apples do I have total? You just add up the 5 plus the 3, and that would be 8 apples. Notice the a part doesn't change. You add 5 plus 3, but you don't add a plus a or anything like that. It just stays a. That's how you combine like terms. If I have 5 bananas and then plus 8 bananas, 5 plus 8 is 13, but the b part just stays how it is. So 5b plus 8b is 13b. So that's how you combine like terms, and that's what we do anytime we're adding up polynomials. So for example, this says to add these two polynomials together. We've got a binomial here, we're going to add them. So often that looks more like this. I'm going to take my two polynomials and add them. Now I don't really need the parentheses. There's nothing in front to distribute, so I could write it without the parentheses. But what I'm going to do anytime you add polynomials is combine like terms. That's it. Like terms means same variable, same exponent. So there are no other x squareds, so that one's just going to stay as it is. Here's an x and here's an x, so those get combined. If I have negative 5 plus 3, that makes negative 2 of them. And then the 10, nothing combines with the 10 because there's no other constants, so the 10 stays the same as well. So this is my final answer. I added the two polynomials together. Let's try another one. Here's a polynomial, we're adding them together. Again, the parentheses aren't necessary here because there's nothing in front that needs distributed. So you could basically just ignore the parentheses. Again, I'm going to look through and try to find some like terms. I like to start with the highest exponent stuff. This is p to the 5th. There are no other p to the 5ths, so that's by itself. What other p's do we have? Negative 3p squared is by itself, and 10p is also by itself. None of those are like terms because they have different exponents, so we can't combine them. Looks like the only thing we can combine is the 2m and the 4m. 2 plus 4 makes 6m. Finally, minus 1 doesn't combine with anything, so put it at the end. You may have rearranged that a little bit, and that's fine, that's still technically correct, but as long as you combined your like terms, that's the answer. All right, see if you can spot the difference with this problem. This one's different because it's a subtraction sign. So instead of adding these two polynomials, we're going to subtract them. And basically, what needs to happen with any polynomial is, if you ever have anything in front of the parentheses, you have to distribute it to everything in the parentheses that comes after. So if there's a number there, or if there's a negative there, which is technically a -1, it needs to be distributed to everything in the parentheses that comes after it. There's nothing in front of this polynomial, so we can just leave it as it is. Basically, what this negative is going to do is it's going to change the signs of all these terms, because negative times a +1 makes -1. Negative times negative makes +6m. -1 times 11m squared is -11m squared. And negative times negative is +3m cubed. Now that I've distributed the negative, I'm just adding everything together like we were before. So the key here was just distribute the negative. Okay, let's look through and find some like terms. I've got m cubed and m cubed. 12 plus 3 makes 15. I've got 4m plus 6m. Oh no, let's do the squared next. -11m squared. Then 4m plus 6m makes 10m. And then -1, there's nothing to combine with. Again, you may have rearranged that a little bit, but as long as you have all of those terms, you've got the correct answer. Do one more subtraction, and this one's a little tricky. It says to subtract this polynomial from this polynomial. We're taking this away from this. Think about if I were subtracting 2 from 3, I wouldn't do 2 minus 3. If I were doing subtract 2 from 3, I would do 3 and subtract 2 from it. The word from kind of flips it backwards. So same thing is going to happen here. I'm going to start with this. You can put it in parentheses if you want, but it's not necessary because nothing's in front. And then I'm going to subtract this. What I have written is actually not correct. It's close, but you have to be careful. If I'm subtracting this entire polynomial, I need parentheses because I'm subtracting all of this. And again, I need to distribute that negative to every single one of those. I'm subtracting the 3x to the 5th, I'm subtracting this, and I'm subtracting this. Which basically becomes minus 3x to the 5th. Minus minus makes a positive 2x squared, and -1. All of that gets added to this original stuff, 8x to the 4th plus 9x squared. And now, like before, just combine like terms. So, I'll start with the 5th. -3x to the 5th is by itself. 8x to the 4th is by itself. I've got 9 plus 2x squared, so that's 11x squared. -1. That's my final answer. All right, in the next video, we'll talk multiplying and dividing.